Welcome to More Than a Few Words, a marketing conversation for business owners. This is your host, Lorraine Ball. And today, we're going to talk about podcasts. Maybe you're sitting there listening to this conversation thinking, I'd like to be a guest, but you're not sure how to get started. Well, that's what we're going to talk about today. And I have invited Kelly Moser, for that conversation. Who is Kelly? Well, if Dumbledore and Bethany Frankel had a baby, and that baby magically had red hair, it would be Kelly. She's a values driven strategist, speaker, and host of the global top 2% podcast, The Aligned Success Show. She will help you embody your highest potential as the CEO of your life and your business. Kelly, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much for having me, Lorraine. I'm so honored to be here.
I'm so excited to have you. And, we had not met before this, but you sent me a pitch. And I have to tell you, as soon as I read it, I knew I wanted you as a guest.
Thank you. That means a lot to hear that the strategies and the approach that I take really resonates because that's what I like to teach other people as well. So I'm very grateful to hear that it was well received.
Well, it was. And now what I want to do is pick your brain a little bit and have you pick your brain a little bit and have you explain to my listeners what you did, how you did it, and really maybe talk about some of the mistakes people make when pitching.
Absolutely. So, as Lorraine and I will both tell you as podcast hosts, we get a lot of inbound messages from people who are interested in coming onto our show. And I think the biggest mistake is where that invitation comes from. So, the energy and the intention behind the invitations that get sent. Most people send a pitch or reach out on Instagram or send you an email, and the intention is, I want airtime on your show. And here's why I deserve it. And here's why you should give it to me. And it comes from this place of one sided benefit. But the difference in the approach that I take and what I like to teach people is that this is a business collaboration. You are entering a business partnership together when you record a podcast episode. So you should approach it from that energy. What can I bring to this show? How can I help Lorraine achieve her goals? How can I help this podcast achieve their goals? And then what is it that I can bring to the audience as well? So it should be, most people approach it, the top priority is what can I get from this? Second priority is what can the audience get? And then the host and the show kind of just get forgotten about. But you should be approaching this as priority number one, what can I do for this podcast and this host? Number two, what can I do for this audience? And then three, what do I hope to get out of this partnership too?
Absolutely. I wish everybody would listen to that and listen to that and listen to it again because sometimes I get a pitch and I think maybe there is something there, but I am so turned off by the approach that I really don't take the time. And it's so easy to be personal and engaging and make that right impression. So, what other mistakes do you think that people make when they are reaching out to podcast hosts? First off, they're talking about themselves and what's in it for them. What other mistakes? And then maybe we'll talk about some things you can do to turn that around.
Absolutely. A huge mistake that people make is they think in this way. They think that the more options I give this podcast host, the better the chances I have of getting booked, which is actually the complete opposite. When you send a pitch to a podcast host and you say, "Hey, Lorraine, I can come on and talk about mindset or sales strategy or how to write a great email," right away, it's too much mental labor for the host. The only decision you want a host to be making is, do I want this person to come on my show and talk about this topic, this very specific episode idea, or not? And
Mhm.
if you're right away, if you're asking them to book a call with you, or if you're asking them to, visit your website so that they can learn more about what you do and what you offer and what you speak on, it's too much. So, one recommendation I would just love for you to take away from this is, how can I do the podcast hosts work for them? Like, how can I think like them, present to them a fully formed episode idea so that they have to do less and not more. Don't ask a podcast host to do anything. They're not going to do it. They're too busy. They're too busy. They've got too many pitches coming in. As minimal effort as you can ask of the host, as little labor as possible, that's really what you want to be. That's your goal, is to, put in front of them an episode that's going to slot perfectly into their show, serve their audience, that they don't even have to think about it. The only question you have for them is, do you want me to come on or not?
That, it's funny. Back in the day, old school marketing, when you would pitch journalists, whether you wanted them to write about you or one of your clients, the advice was exactly the same. Almost write the article. So if the journalist doesn't have time, all they have to do is copy the text right out of your press release. If they're interested, they'll ask other questions. But if
Exactly.
you make it easy, they're going to have a stack of pitches, they have a deadline. They're going to go to the easy ones. And good podcast hosts are getting so many inquiries. The ones where I have to read through and figure out, I don't even know what you would talk about. If you don't know what you would talk about, why are we having this conversation?
Exactly. I love that you tie it back to what you've seen in other pockets of marketing, because it's so true. The
Hmm.
As if you can present to a podcast host at a fully formed episode with your talking points and how you could, guide the conversation for your audience's maximum benefit, that's going to be a no-brainer.
Absolutely. And I think you said something that I think a lot of people forget. They think, well, I'm doing them an honor by being on their show. I got people lining up for that. That idea of a collaboration and creating a win win situation. What else can I offer a podcast host? What else can I do that will make them say, oh, this person's going to be a good partner?
Absolutely. 99.9% of people don't do this. So if you can be in the 0.1% of people that do, your pitch is going to get moved to the top of the pile every single time. And this one thing that you can do is to explicitly share how you are going to promote the episode to your audience, to your communities, to your clients. Because that's, if you think about what a podcast host really wants, it's three things. One is they want incredible content so that they can deliver the absolute best of the best to their audience. The second thing they want is to continue growing this audience so that it's worth their while to keep running this show and put all of the work, time, energy, money into maintaining a show and growing it. And three is they want more revenue to funnel into their business through their podcast. And they do that by growing their audience. So if you can position yourself as someone who's not just going to bring incredible value to a podcast, but someone who is going to bring new eyeballs and more visibility to a podcast, that's the magic recipe for getting your pitches seen. And now you can't make empty promises. You absolutely have to show up and do the things that that you say you're going to do to help promote the episode, for sure. So no empty promises. But even if you don't have a huge audience, so you might be listening to this thinking, I'm kind of just starting out. I don't have a huge email list. I don't have huge social media platforms. When I tell you that nobody includes this, that even if all you could do, even if all you offered was, I'm going to bring this to my Uncle Albert's birthday party next weekend and make sure that my whole family listens to it and leaves reviews in Apple Podcasts, I'm telling you that is going to at least get you noticed, because it's a gesture of generosity, and
Hmm.
almost nobody does it. So even if that's all you can offer, make sure that you do, because it's going to go so far in creating true collaboration.
That is my favorite thing when somebody either comes and says that, or when I check out people's profiles, because I will look at their social media. And if somebody says, well, I'm going to share it, and I read through their social media and they don't engage with anyone, or they don't seem to be sharing anybody else's content, I know that they're not going to do it for me. And if they are, I'm lining up going, okay, I want to play with them because they look like they're going to be a great partner.
That's right. I think most guests treat podcast opportunities, or even speaking on stages, they treat any opportunity to speak to someone else's audience as this kind of like one night stand energy, when really this is just the start of a partnership that should be lasting you years. And you should be checking in with the hosts that you get to engage with once a quarter and saying, what are you working on? How can I support you? What are you promoting right now? How can I, can I link to your latest freebie in my emails. Like this is just your episode is the beginning of a partnership, not the end.
Well, and if you're a great guest, you're going to get invited back. I I went through a period where the only people I was interviewing were people who had been on the show before because I knew the first conversation was good. They were great partners. Why go out and look for new when I know that this is going to be beneficial?
That's right. You know exactly what you're going to get from them. You know exactly how they're going to show up before, during, and after. The guesswork, again, is as minimal as possible. Those are going to be your people. And then you can establish almost like a residency on some of your favorite podcasts if you continually show up, bring value, bring listeners. If you can be the person that brings a podcast great value, new listeners, and more revenue, you are going to be their favorite guest of all time. I promise you.
Absolutely. Well, Kelly, this has been fabulous. And I am going to encourage my audience, when you're done listening to these episodes, to hop over and check out the Aligned Success Show and listen to more advice from Kelly. Kelly, thank you for being a part of the show.
Thank you so much, Lorraine. It was so much fun.
It was. If you've enjoyed today's conversation and you'd like to find other resources for your business, be sure to check out our digital toolbox. Look for MTFW wherever you listen to podcasts. This has been another episode of More Than a Few Words. Thanks for listening.